So in the first 4 years, yes, children are natural learners. So they are like a sponge.
Okay.
So they are absorbing everything that is happening in the environment, right?
How can you make the parent more aware? How can you educate them?
The parent has to play the role of a sibling, of a parent, of a guide, enemy also. Okay, I'm fighting with you now today. I don't want to talk to you. So all those roles for a parent to play in an environment where they are also very busy.
Correct.
They have their own challenges.
Hey guys, welcome to the next edition of the Evolvement Podcast, where we meet and kind of decode conscious leaders. Today I have with me a very special guest. She is Ketaki Shankar. Ketaki has been working for the past 31 years in the areas of early learning and parents counseling.
Yes.
She has conducted workshops across the Middle East, Africa, as well as India, and I think other places of the world as well.
Right.
She has been a proponent of the parents workshop, or is
Yes,
it
positive parenting workshop.
positive parenting workshop? You have to, I think, guide me.
That's okay.
Okay, so Ketaki there's a special area in life which I believe, see, conscious leadership does not just start with adulthood. It starts right from a very young childhood age. You are the ones, the parents are the ones who are bringing up their child in that manner that the child is going to actually become a conscious leader and also live their life consciously with values. And today we are going to really decode this. If you are a parent, if you have a child whom you would like to see excel in life, this podcast is definitely for you. Something that you are going to see and also implement in your own life and the life of your child. Let's continue. Thanks so much, Ketaki.
Pleasure.
It's such a special moment for me. When we actually had our first discussion, we just met, guys, very casually.
Yeah, that's
But the discussion, that point which struck me when you mentioned early learning.
yes.
There was a guest which I had for my podcast. She was, talking about Garab Sanskar.
Right.
She is Sonal Jaiswal. She's also the author of the Garab Sanskar book, Manifestations Through Garab Sanskar. And she spoke about, how the human mind is actually developing right from conception.
Absolutely.
And then when we spoke about early learning, and you mentioned, I think 0 to 4 years, or how does the 0 to 4 year learning really transpire? See, I always assume, we were always told that children pick up things on their own. You don't have to really bother too much 0 to 5 years. And early learning is actually talking about a lot of human intervention, parental intervention.
Correct.
What is the connection here?
So basically, I totally agree with Garbha Sanskar because prenates, when they are in the womb, prenates can see, hear, feel, remember, taste, and even think before birth. So the learning,
They can even taste.
They can even taste.
Oh wow! I heard about hearing.
Yeah.
Because we are the Mahabharat war where Abhimanyu was hearing
Chakravyuh.
about Chakravyuh. Correct. But this is
And so that was supposedly mythology.
okay.
But science has proved it now that they can do, the fetal learning capabilities are far more specific than what we thought.
Wow.
So as a pregnant woman, you're not just an incubator, but you can be a powerful and positive influence on the baby even before it is born. And now we come to the 0 to 4. So in the first 4 years, yes, children are natural learners. So they are like a sponge.
Okay.
So they are absorbing everything that is happening in the environment, right? From sounds to mannerisms to values to speech to exposure. So they're just in the absorption stage at that time. And 50% of their intellectual development takes place in the first 4 years.
50%.
50%.
I mean, okay, so if a person is going to live up to, I assume, like a age of 70, 80.
Right.
So you're saying that 50% takes place till 5 years. 4 years.
Yes, 4 years. The ability to learn
Huh?
in a child between 0 to 4 is the highest.
Wow.
I mean, if you think of a language, how
Right.
does the child pick up the mother tongue? Does anybody teach him?
Nothing, yeah.
So if a child is growing up in a Malayalam house,
Huh.
they will pick up Malayalam language.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, a child will pick up French or German or English or Hindi, whatever. Nobody is teaching them language, and if they're exposed to multiple languages, they're picking up all the languages. Now, if you and me have to learn Spanish, can we learn just by listening?
Not really.
Not really.
And I am completely challenged with languages because
That makes the two of us.
I can only speak. I think in English. Okay, I grew up with Hindi, Punjabi, and English.
Right.
But I think in English. I have tried to adopt other languages, but it's very temporary.
Predominant in your mind.
Predominantly, it's always been English for me. Somehow, I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I've tried other languages. I've brought up in Maharashtra, in Mumbai,
Okay.
where I was taught Marathi in school and French in school. Zero. I understand Marathi if it is spoken softly and clearly, but a dialect, I'm gone. So languages I totally get. I mean 0 to 4 years I learned Punjabi and Hindi, but for me it's still, I don't think in those languages.
So your maximum exposure in the early years, the exposure I'm talking about, would be more of English. Though Hindi and all must be spoken at home, but since maybe probably the schooling or wherever, maybe it was a convent school or whatever, your exposure to English was more. So that is why you started thinking in English.
My school
Possibly.
was a Parsi school.
Yes.
So I am from Pettit, AF Pettit, which is at Pali Hill.
Right.
But yeah, so completely English environment, and my mother spoke English always.
There you go.
Yeah, so my mother was in English, but yeah, my grandparents were very clear Punjabi, because a Punjabi Sikh family, so Punjabi mein hi baat karni hai. So we were always like at home very correct Punjabi. And my father spoke a lot of Hindi. So we were all like all languages coming through, but my mom used to speak everything. But somehow I guess the school exposure was high. So
think of you as a child. Let's take your example. So you were exposed to 3 languages when you were a child.
correct.
Now, how does a child learn a language? I mean, if you go to see, how would you and me learn a language? We would probably go to classes, start with possibly the alphabets or whatever. But a child learns, for a child, it's not about French or Marathi or English. They are just sounds. So language are just sounds for the child.
Okay.
And that is why a lot of parents make a mistake thinking, oh, my child will get confused if I expose more languages. So there are a lot of parents who say, no, I want my child to learn English because that's important. There are some parents who say, no, mother tongue is very important. So my child should know mother tongue, English they will learn anyway. But they don't understand that children have the capacity of absorbing all the languages because it's only a sound.
50%.
Think of it.
I mean that is something which is so weird. I mean, I never thought 50%.
Huge.
You always think that there's always going to be scope for you to keep learning, but 50% is a huge thing.
Yeah, see, learning doesn't stop, but your capacity of learning depends on the exposure that you have got in the childhood.
Okay.
So a lot of people like our generation, people have grown up probably playing on the street and playing all, outdoor games and all that.
Yeah.
So our personalities have become like that. Nowadays, children are more at home in the 4 walls. They really don't play out as much. They don't really have that kind of physical, activities. So their upbringing is like that. So that affects their psyche as well.
This is something which is. We grew up. I grew up in a joint family. Okay, and although we were just me and my sister at home, but we had my aunts visiting with their children, and uncles visiting, and so there was this huge. I think when our holidays, we would have like 12, 13 children together in the house. So I have grown up with these big families, and for us, grandparents were always around, and so we were always like this huge family.
Childhood.
Yeah. I mean, and I have. I would also go visit my bua's house where they had multiple children coming there, and so we had a lot of interaction. And we would all children sleeping on the floor together. We put mattresses, and it was never a question of you need a bed or I need my own space. It was like you find a place and you sleep there.
You manage.
So for us it was this very vibrant and I actually look back on my childhood with a lot of love. because I think the people surrounding me, there was so much love happening from all sides, and
Right.
our cousins, and we're just sitting together like 2 o'clock in the morning, we're chatting, and we're even though we are sleeping, we're holding hands, and so I remember all those things in my childhood. But today's children grow up so alone,
Isolated.
isolated. I think not just because like school is there, but they are only interacting in a very mechanical format in the school, because you're just going, coming, and I don't think they really get that interactive. That I think their emotional development gets somewhere compromised.
Yes.
If you're not going to, no one's going to harm you, no one's going to, I think we used to have fights. You said that, or I don't think they go through that nowadays, do they?
They don't have exchange of emotions.
I think somewhere.
And somewhere now with younger, parents, they prefer to have one child. So the emotions of that child are quite suppressed because there is nobody to share with. I mean, you want to cry out, but in front of whom? You want to give a punch to whom? So, they can't do that with the parents. Because parents will always have a little high-handed approach. But with siblings, what happens is they can be themselves. And that is what is largely missing out, I think, in this generation, in the younger, very young generation.
So what can we do? See, because you know what, this status quo is not going to change. It's not going to go back to those 5 sibling families, and I think that is not going to ever happen.
Yes.
Sadly, no. So in our scenario where the parents who are our parents, children who are there and parenting, and how can they correct it? What as per you, how can you make the parent more aware? How can you educate them?
See, parents definitely, parenting itself has become a big challenge now. I would probably think my belief is that earlier parenting was easier, though the number of children were more. But they would manage each other, they would correct each other, the eldest one would take care of the younger one. So the parents didn't have that much responsibility. Yeah, you have to feed them and overall you oversee them. But then the day-to-day things internally only they would manage.
Okay.
Right? Now what happens here, the parent has to play the role of a sibling, of a parent, of a guide, of a, probably an enemy also. Okay, I'm fighting with you now today, I don't want to talk to you. So all those roles for a parent to play in an environment where they are also very busy.
Correct.
They have their own challenges.
They are surviving. They have to manage their own careers, their personal life, their home. It's very difficult.
Social life.
Their social life, and for them, and I'll tell you what, somewhere, the kind of clients I am getting, because see, I handle leadership coaching, and training and leading. The people I get are ideally in the range of the age is somewhere around 25, 26 to I would say 35, 40, even 45.
Right.
Mine is not a demographic, it's a psychographic.
Okay.
It's more to do with people who are now like stagnated, and they say that something has to change, because either their professional life is not growing or their personal life has got challenges. So such people come to me and they have issues like anger and stress management, and they're not able to grow, and they're not able to communicate to their teams, and so there are a lot of issues which keep coming up, and I take people through the entire gamut, and that's what we do.
Wonderful.
But you know what I've realized? Many of them themselves are not able to express what they are feeling.
Right.
Like when we talk about values, I always start my sessions with, we have a good session on values.
Okay.
What do you value? And believe me, 60-70% of them do not know their values.
They don't know the values.
They don't know what they value.
Okay.
So I have now come up with something where I tell them that, okay, what is it that if this is not there in your life, you're going to feel uncomfortable. And then they come and they say, oh, self-respect.
Okay.
And they'll come and say money. They'll say, so they start saying certain things. And some people will literally just tell me, values, what can we talk about values? What are values? And then I realize that if a parent is not going to know his own values, what values are they going to give their children?
Absolutely.
There is actually a vacuum happening. I can see it among adults. Now, these adults are going to become parents
Oh, right.
and are parents.
Correct.
I think the gap between these, what they are and what they should have been, is just getting wider and wider. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you are dealing with them, so you actually have a first-hand experience of
Yeah.
what they go through.
Yeah, because they themselves don't know what their values are. They don't know what they are meant to do in any situation. They're not able to. They react in a very odd manner.
Right.
You know, these. So parents are outsourcing the entire schooling of their child. I think not the schooling, but the education of their child to the school. You know, they are thinking that, okay, you've put them into a nice school and like my job is done. I only have to ensure that, you know, the marks, today's child is, the parent is
So much under pressure.
pressure for the marks. Like, okay, you know, why did you lose 2 marks here? Why did you lose 3 marks over here?
Mark.
Half a mark.
Half a mark.
Yeah, and I remember going for my child, even my child's, you know, parent-teacher meetings and those, you know, where they show the marks and they show the papers, and other parents used to fight with the teacher. I was like, what kind of an impression are you leaving?
What is the child learning?
Well, the child is learning that that half mark is important and the value to the teacher is not important.
Correct. Disrespect to the teacher.
The disrespect to the teacher, and what is the teacher getting out of this?
Correct.
They are losing their own self-respect.
True.
You know, and they are kind of pandering to whatever, and so parents are outsourcing something to the teacher,
Right.
to the school, but not completely, but gaining control over the entire process and trying to mold it to their requirements. What do you think is doing to the child?
See, basically, parents want to control the process and make things happen the way they have imagined it to be, the outcome.
The outsourced process.
Yes, outsourced process. So, see, what I believe in is that a parent can be a school for the child, okay? But the school cannot replace a parent.
Wow.
Isn't that true?
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what a school does, it cannot become a parent.
Cannot become a parent.
Yeah, but a parent, there are people who are homeschooled.
Correct, yes?
They are completely there. I'll tell you something nice which I just recollected. My son had, during his 4th or 5th standard, he had entered this competition called Scientifica,
Okay.
which was handled by IIT Bombay students.
Okay.
And where they took these students from everywhere, you know, across Bombay, Maharashtra, and they took them through whatever. And my son, in that category of age, he came in the first 25.
Wonderful.
Okay, and the first 20, so otherwise in hundreds, and also he cleared 3 rounds. And there was this one couple with their child, with their daughter.
Okay.
And they were talking about something, and they were very simple. Like, you saw them, they were wearing that jhola utaya tha and stuff. And we were talking about some nice serial which used to come about science, you know, on one of the TV serials. And I remember talking about that, yeah, the child learns a lot from that. And the father asked me, what is this? What are you all talking about? So I said, yeah, this comes on TV and each channel hai, and you can just see that. And he said, oh, but we don't see TV at home, and because our daughter is completely homeschooled. This was obviously ages back, you know.
Yeah.
I think it was 2005-6 or something. They were homeschooling their daughter. And it was a concept very alien to me. I said, how are you homeschooling? Because we are not used to homeschooling, right?
Correct, yeah.
They said, we are homeschooling the daughter. And I was kind of little skeptical as well. I said, oh my God, guess what? She stood first in that category.
Look at that.
And I realized that TV is educating my child somewhere.
Yes.
And here the child is homeschooled. They are putting in that effort on that child. And the final project which they had to make was they had to, with some raw materials given, they had to make a boat which floats on water.
Oh, okay.
My son's boat floated, but for 5 seconds. That girl's boat floated. The judges said we were so impressed by her design that even adults do not think of that design.
Oh, so how creative she would have been.
I think so, problem solving.
Yeah.
Completely, and you know, creativity, innovation.
Correct.
Something. So homeschooling, but maybe, yeah, but the parents also need to put in that effort.
See, all children have the same advantages in school, right?
Right.
A teacher is teaching the same thing to 30 children, 40 children.
Right.
Okay? So it's only the home that makes a difference, because the learning is the same for 30 children. So why is it that some child is very motivated to learn, the other child is looking out of the window? So it doesn't mean that he is not intelligent. It's just that the home environment has not been conducive to learning.
Right.
Is why some children are disinterested and they are called as dumb, which is terrible.
Which is terrible.
But it's still done.
Yeah.
But the question is that school and parents are two sides of the same coin. You know?
But how can, okay, so today's generation, I mean, we are talking about this same generation of people are becoming parents.
Yes.
Okay. And how can they now make a change? Because see, they have to manage their homes, their personal lives, their social lives, their professional lives. How can they better their parenting? How can your early learning systems, what do you all put into place?
See, what we focus on, we do understand that the parenting that we did is not possible for the parents today. We have to understand, accept the change and be practical.
Correct.
So what our focus is on, to be honest, is to not focus on the quantity of the time that you have with the child, but the quality of time. So whatever little time you have, if you use that productively with the child, okay, and if you have the right tools, which can make those sessions a lot of fun, very interactive, where you actually communicate.
Okay.
Because most of the time parents are, all they talk to children is instructions. Do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this.
Oh wow.
Bad boy, good boy. We are labeling
You're
the child.
so right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see this happening
Where
all
is the
around
conversation?
me.
There is no conversation with kids. There is only instructions. Because we are parents, you need to listen to us.
Do this, brush your teeth, do your
So
homework.
basically, from the time they open their eyes till the time they sleep, it's all about, ye karo, wo karo.
Correct.
But where is the conversation? Where are you even understanding the thought processes of your child? Where is the time when you switch off your phone, keep it aside and give your 100% to your child? How many parents do that? It's not rocket science. It's not so complicated as it seems to be.
Yeah, I think they've made parenting as like this very hardship thing. Okay, it's so hard to be a
hard
parent.
to raise a child now. And lot of couples are deciding not to have a kid.
Yeah.
A conscious decision of not having a kid. But do you understand that a child fulfills your complete life, especially for a woman. I mean that's again a very personal opinion. But there are parents there are couples who decide not to have a kid.
Correct.
But that's okay, that's their personal choice. But if you are a parent, I think it's not only the physical development that you're responsible for, but mental and most importantly, emotional development.
With my child, I remember, reading to him when he was young and, taking him like, a very small kid and reading and, taking, and by the way, my son doesn't like reading. So he now has developed a tolerance of reading where he reads, but it's not something that comes to him very easily, naturally. I mean, I think the number of books I read to him and the poetries and the, songs I've sung for him, but it's not natural for him. But somewhere, I mean, I choose to believe that something was making a difference.
Right.
So, what about your personal experience on that?
Yeah, same with me, with my child. I mean, for my child he's quite an introvert actually, a very closed child. So I started with books very naturally because I am a natural, an avid reader. So I thought this is the best thing to do, not realizing the benefits of it. All right. My son did grow up to be quite a non-reader like your son. But I feel that it's not about, again, that thing of continuation of reading. It's more about that is the time where they got our undivided attention. And I don't think a child would want anything more than a parent's undivided attention. Because we are doing things, child is asking something, we barely listen to a child, forget responding.
More than I think undivided attention, I also think unconditional acceptance.
Yeah, correct.
Because Okay, just today's case, I guess. Let's just talk about
Yeah,
that.
why not?
Oh, guys, this I have to share.
This morning.
This morning, so Ketaki and I decided that, before we do the podcast recording, let's go out for breakfast together, and we met early and we went to this place, and it's a South Indian lovely place. We had breakfast. The next table, there was a woman there with a child who would be what, 2 years old?
3 years.
3 years, okay. Her son was continuously on the mobile. Now, the fact here is, he was on the mobile and I think she was on the other mobile.
Yeah, she was quiet. She was doing her eating. That guy was on the screen and he was also eating. And there was barely any kind of interaction between them.
There was no interaction between mother and child. Even to the extent of, like, if you're eating, making him, you're at least wiping his mouth, or it was just a child is doing his own thing.
Correct.
The mother is doing her own thing.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere, you went and you spoke to them. You said, no, I am going to speak to them. And I was like, be my guest, like, go on. And I think Ketaki went there and she spoke to them. And when she spoke to her, the mother, I think, realized.
She did. That was a good part. And I said, please don't mind, but this is a habit that's going to convert to an addiction very soon.
Yeah.
And the moment you get it, she said, no, it just, when he's having food or sometimes. I said, this is how it starts.
Yeah.
And then she told me that, okay, but I'm sitting here in a restaurant. How do I keep my son occupied? What do I do? So it was only mother and son, only two of them. And I said, okay, if you don't have any other tools, why don't you play picture Sudoku with your child?
Yeah.
That can also be done on a screen, but it is something that would encourage interaction. But she loved the idea.
No, she loved the idea, but do you realize she still did not talk to the child directly.
Mm-hmm.
She was still just talking to you.
Correct.
There was that where you talk. So, I think this one thing which I did with my son, which I feel I made a difference,
Yeah.
Every decision I would run by him. I was never a parent to him.
Same with me.
I was an adult to adult.
Yeah, always.
And when I realized that he is going wrong, I would tell him that I know what you said, what you shared, but that is not going to work in this scenario because for so and so reasons.
Right.
And I would share that with him. But I have been sharing everything with him.
With me too. Yeah, there's nothing that my son, if I'm doing this podcast with you right now, he knows that this moment I'm doing this podcast with you.
My son was in the 5th standard. And he comes to me and says, I want this mobile, I want this video game or some PlayStation or something. And I said, I can't afford it. And he said, Mama, how can you not afford it? It's only so much. I said, okay, let's do one thing. We sat. I shared him my salary. I said, this is how much I'm getting. And then he said, oh, there's enough space for a PlayStation. I said, okay, now let's start counting the expenses. And one by one, we counted the expenses. And he said, Mama, how do we survive?
Correct.
I said, I'm paying insurance, I'm paying, there is a maintenance here, I'm paying the car, the home, everything. I look at all the food, my travel, your school fees,
right.
The books, everything. And they said, you want new clothes, you want this is what we are managing. And he said, Mama, but how are you managing? I said, exactly, I'm just juggling it. And every month I save something so that I can have something for your birthday.
Yes.
Because I'm a single parent.
Correct.
And although I had my mom's support and all that, but the onus is always on you.
End of the day, it's you.
It's you. Yeah. So I said, this is how I'm doing. So people told me, are you funny? Why are you sharing your, your salary and your income with your child? I was told that by people.
Seriously? Yeah. I think that's what makes a child responsible.
He got into it, and then he would come up with ways, okay, let's save money here. Let me not do this, let me do that.
Yeah, the concept of saving.
It's a life skill.
Of course.
Schools today are, okay, this is my biggest, problem with schools. They do not teach life skills.
Correct.
They are making people rattu poppers.
Yeah, like robots,
okay. I mean, this ICSE school jo hai, they are making them 9th and 10th standard. I think they are like for 60 chapters. Okay, they want that marks, they want those 90+% and all that. How much are you going to make a child learn?
Absolutely.
I find that to be so ridiculous.
But have you noticed, Rin, that if you see from starting from our childhood till now. Okay, how many toppers are really successful?
They're not. They're not. Believe me, I have seen in my personal life.
If you see the people who are successful are the average, who were average in their studies and probably little above average as well.
Right.
And they are the ones who learned the life skill. Something like decision making. Something like,
Negotiation,
yes.
budgeting.
Yep, absolutely.
These are main life skills.
Life skills. So what is that book knowledge going to do to you if you are not street smart? And that is why Indians, if you see, I mean, that credit has to be given, that Indians are successful everywhere. Because we have learned very naturally. But now these children, okay, who are 1 and 2 and 3 year olds now, 20 years later, they are going to face the challenges which you and me can't even think of. Because the world is changing at such a fast pace.
I always say this. I find that Marwadi households, Gujarati households are, the children are much more business oriented.
Yeah.
From a young age, business is being dinned into their ears.
Yes.
There is this
It's in their system.
In their system.
Yeah.
Because parents are talking about business. And this is something which I would have advised that schools should have. There should be a topic, a subject of business.
Right.
There has to be an experiential learning of business.
Correct.
Okay, even history. Okay, now I realized a love of physics in my 30s, not in my school. For me, physics was a topic, was a subject. In my 30s, I'm like, oh wow, physics is magic.
Yeah.
Like, can you see what is happening in the world and the universe and stuff like that? I was never shown a love of physics. It was just like, ye learn karna hai. Exam mein jaake deke aana hai. 1 year you learn and next, the summer holidays, you're completely blank. The slate is wiped off.
Absolutely. Even I've learned that way. And even history, we used to wonder, why do you want to learn history? वो तो हो गया है ना already. तो अब क्या करना है? But now we get the wisdom that today is based on your yesterday. And your tomorrow will be based on what you do today. So it is so connected. I mean, a subject like math, for example, is a very dreaded subject. Math is difficult. Almost 80% of children hate math by the middle school and they just do it because they are supposed to do it. But why not inculcate a love for the subject when the child is young? That's what our program does.
You know what, Ketaki? 15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Just 15 minutes of quality time.
Yeah.
Is it really enough? Like a subject like maths and a subject like, creativity and innovation. How, even languages, how is it enough?
See, enough in the sense, what happens is, like I said, that you have to be practical. Parents don't have much time.
Right.
But if the tool is effective, see, every child's concentration span is very less.
Which is getting worse day by day.
Thanks to the screen also.
Yeah.
So the concentration span is less. So it is not important that you sit with something for half an hour with a child, only then you have done a good job. In that concentration span, what has the child absorbed?
Okay.
Is what matters. Again, that is what is quality.
Okay.
And that is why this tool is very helpful because it's all about having fun together.
But is it any time कि morning में करना है, afternoon करना है?
It all depends on, it's totally flexible.
Okay.
If parents are working, they can, post dinner. For example, you're sitting with the child, to sit and do flashcards with them, sit and do phonics with them. You can play a memory game with flashcards. You can play treasure hunt with flashcards. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, and you can absolutely sit and, play quiz games with them.
Okay.
I mean, why does it have to be so difficult? Why does, learning something have to be so difficult?
So obviously, what people confuse learning, studies with learning.
It's two different things altogether.
They confuse it.
Yeah, studying is a compulsive activity.
Right.
Okay, you have to study, you have to finish your homework, history study karna hai, ye karna hai. But learning is voluntary.
And learning is continuous and there is no end to learning.
There is no end to it. And like you're learning music, you're learning dance, you're learning swimming, so that is done out of your own interest.
Right.
And the best thing for a parent to do is make your child a good learner.
Correct.
And you're there. Then you don't have to worry. See, I always say parents have two choices. One choice is to spend a little bit of time and effort to develop the right habits, inculcate the right habits in children. Okay?
Right.
In the early years, which is easier.
Right.
The other option is, life is going on well. देखेंगे बाद में क्या हो रहा है. but then eventually you have to pay the price, because the child finds it so much more difficult to process information. The memory is not that enhanced. So it's better that thoda right habits develop karo with the right tools.
Is it, people normally talk about this absorption of information. So, I was in the corporate sector and I've had a team and all that. Some people in my team would immediately absorb some information.
Yeah.
And others, it was like an uphill task. Like they're not getting the concept. I would associate that with IQ. So you're saying somewhere it is not IQ, it is the inputs that child has had.
Yes, it's the way the brain gets molded.
Okay.
See, every child is born with enough number of brain cells to be highly successful in life.
Okay.
But it's not the number of brain cells that's important. It's the connections that take place between these brain cells, which are known as synapses.
Okay, I know synapses because I'm a coach. But I think you need to explain what synapses are to our readers,
that's
to
what I was
our
about
viewers, because I know about synapses, because obviously, coaching, they definitely talk about synapses. But please go ahead.
Yeah, so these synapses, which are the connections between these brain cells, they are created based on the stimulation that we provide in the children's environment. And by stimulation, we mean nothing else except making the child think. So the more the exposure or stimulation, the more the brain activity. The more the brain activity, the more the brain connections. So again, coming back to what are you exposing them to? Now, if you take an example of the child in the morning sitting with a screen. Now the child is watching somebody else's imagination. When you're watching a screen, actually your brain is not working. It's a passive activity. It's not an interactive activity. And imagine when the first 8 years, when the brain is growing at such a fast pace, if the inputs are not given, then these brains develop only to a certain extent. And that is when, as adults, we have problem in learning, things. And like I have a problem with directions.
Okay.
I just cannot remember roads.
Okay.
I just can't. And then everything, if you see, even if you go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, they start from the childhood.
Everything
Isn't it?
Everything
so they will take
childhood.
you back to your childhood, what happened, what are your memories, what has stayed, what has the imprints of childhood.
Correct.
Affects the behavior, the responses, your positivity, your negativity, the way you look at the world, the way you create your own life.
The way you react to things. Sometimes, the basic, simple things also you react so badly.
Yeah. That's the difference between responding and reacting.
Yeah.
Reacting you do without thinking. You just
Correct.
react. But to pause, to reflect and to respond also is a life skill.
No, and I'll tell you what, this particular thing which you mentioned earlier as well, you said about toppers.
Yes.
So there's some story which was coming into my mind.
Okay.
This was really weird, okay? I was in JM Financial and we were sent for a training program on emotional intelligence.
Okay.
Okay, so there was this trainer called Srini, alright? And he came in and see, I have been not a good student in school, okay? I was, the last 5,
Backbencher.
Backbencher nahi thi, I was just in the front only. But I was mentally a backbencher.
Okay.
So I have actually studied early. So so there were people in my school who had the birthday same day as me, like same week as me. But there was a 1 year difference between our ages.
Okay.
So I have studied 1 year ahead. I cleared my 10th standard when I was 14-year-old.
Right.
I don't think this is allowed now.
Yes.
But at that time, things were pretty slack. Ki she's coping, kar do. So initial 6 months I would be struggling with my work, and then last 6 months I would kind of pick up.
Right.
But to that extent where I can just pass. That's why with my son I did not put him ahead in class. Because I knew that this would be a problem.
Yes.
So with me, but I used to cope however. Okay. Now, I've never been a topper in my life for whatever reasons and purposes. So in JM, I always thought that others around me are toppers because they are all successful, they've reached somewhere.
They're doing well in life.
They're doing well in life and whatever. So the first day we had this program and the trainer asked everyone, out of this entire batch, who all have been toppers? And believe me, I felt this insecurity in myself.
Now it comes.
It comes out. And I looked around, thinking that all would be, because they were all people, very highly successful people, and we were like a good crowd.
Yeah.
And none of the people were toppers.
Yes.
Zero. Okay, and this is what the trainer said. He says, I have been conducting this program for so many years, and this is exactly the thing that I see in all corporates.
Right.
That all these people, who are sitting here handling excellent roles, they're handling their departments. He says, I have found only 1% toppers here. 1%. He said, and that was his. It's a negligible ratio.
Absolutely.
He said 1% toppers here, because toppers, they are so interested in this marks and this running phase that they burn out. That was his words. They burn out before they can actually reach their potential.
Very true.
And it is this other category which starts, they are always searching, like the one which I was in, they are always searching for what they can do better.
Correct.
And they start getting into their niches. Trying different things, getting to their niches, and then becoming successful, because they always feel that we have to catch up.
Yeah.
So the catch up guys are actually the ones who are going ahead.
Yeah.
That I think that tortoise and the hare story. So I never pushed my son to get marks. I said, no, you have to pass.
Yeah.
I said, your 4th standard, 5th standard marks are only going to count till you pass that subject and pass that year. Never bothered. I was more interested in him gaining values.
Yes.
So I think that was very, this was a personal thing which happened with me.
So that has been your priority, and I think, good academics can get you a job.
Right.
But good values will get you promotions.
Oh my God. That's so true.
Isn't it true?
Yeah, because, exactly. My values always stood out. I mean, I would tell people.
That's why you're here. That's why we are talking, because it's your values that's talking right now.
No, and I would see people and I would see them, always crying. They're always complaining and whining, and I was like, are you not working on yourself?
Yeah.
And I realized when I started working on myself, my evolvement method did not come in one day.
Yeah.
This was literally 18 years of experience which got me there, HR experience typically. And that value, find that leadership within, that's what I do for people. We find that leadership, and that's how you will evolve, that's how you will attain. And now I've realized that you can actually attain what you set your mind to.
See, challenges can either make you better or can make you bitter.
Oh wow! You are coming up with these epiphanies.
I think I've lived all this, so that is why it comes out naturally.
Yeah.
But it's your choice. Life is nothing but the choices that you make.
Yeah, so it's either better or is it bitter?
It can make you either bitter or better.
Yeah, so you have to make the bitter. There's something that make the bitter butter better.
Tongue twister,
I remember that thing in my mind. Yeah, but this is what people do. They are, so parents, I would suggest one thing with parents, like, we don't talk about stories. Like when you mentioned that you're only talking about guideline, you do this, do that.
Yeah.
There are no stories, and we had stories. This is a new concept which is now, I think last 4-5 years, has picked up in the corporates.
Okay.
They are actually hiring trainers to teach their leaders storytelling. Are you aware of this concept?
That's an art actually.
It's an art. Okay, so they said that, there are people who come and teach storytelling. And once you do the storytelling, so they're saying you have to now treat even, actually I have somebody coming for another podcast. Okay. He's a guest in my podcast. He is a storyteller.
Okay.
He's a writer he teaches storytelling to corporates.
Okay.
So, we were actually having our initial discussion, and he was challenging me with certain stories and stuff like that. I said, I am already converted. I'm a believer.
Yeah.
But he was telling that now corporates are coming and they're saying, teach these guys that, because they don't know how to evoke interest, how to, get the other person think about solutions. And that is happening with storytelling. Yeah. So imagine something which a child is supposed to learn, they are now teaching adults. So isn't it better that we teach children about it?
Anytime, no? Because that becomes a part of their persona then. That becomes a natural way of communication for a child.
Correct. Yeah.
Instead of being formally taught later.
Right.
And we have understood that learning something later is a little bit more difficult.
Right.
So the younger years, when the child is very flexible, the child is very open to learning, the child is like very ready to learn because their minds are designed that way.
Correct.
You know, so it's like when the child is born, we start with milk.
Right.
Then we take a child to semi-solid, and then we take a child to solid food.
Right.
Now, why do we do that? For the physical development of the
Correct.
child, right? Similarly, for the brain requires progression. Okay, not just A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, or my child knows 1 to 10, my child now knows 1 to 20. So we are all doing it the wrong way. It is more to do with what concepts the child is learning, instead of just starting to memorize something like even numbers. Math can never be memorized, but we start the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know? So parents need to be educated.
So this early learning goes on till what age?
So basically, we focus on the first 10 years of a child. The first 8 years, 80% of the development takes place.
Okay.
All right. So our program, which is called the A+ program, it's from Learning Time, and it's one of a kind in the whole world. It's completely comprehensive, which develops attitude, awareness, and ability in children, which is the perfect balance. It's like how you have a balanced diet for the body. This is like a perfect balanced diet for the brain, which develops the IQ and the EQ.
Which is very important.
Very,
EQ
very important.
is very, very
it
important.
has to be in tandem.
Yes.
You know, it can't be one at the cost of the other. So this program actually completely develops the child's intellectual abilities, emotional abilities, social abilities, speech, you know, and it's multilingual, so the child is picking up a lot of languages, and it has got a wonderful gadget which makes this entire program talk to the child. So it's great for busy parents, because what really happens is that with the gadget, the child can actually interact with the book, and that is where the habit of reading comes in.
No, but also, you know, y'all are also not just educating the child, educating the parent.
It all starts. It's never about the child.
Exactly, because the parent has to, you know, intervene. It has to bridge this particular, the learning with the child. And I think the parent-child relationship will flourish. The bonding will happen, because there's now a parent who is involved, and they're interacting, they are getting the responses from the child, and that is creating the difference.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and what a parent can do, nobody else can do, by the way.
Nobody can replace a parent.
Yeah, you can.
And I just feel that it is our risk. We can't depend on the teachers in school, because teachers are doing their job. They have to finish their curriculum. They have to finish that particular thing in that month. So you can't expect, I mean, even the best teachers can't provide individual attention to every child in the classroom, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that makes the home the most important place of learning for the child.
You know, I mean, I don't want to say this here, but so many of my clients who come to me, they come to me because they are frustrated with their life. They are stagnating. Correct. And even their personal life, like professional life, yes, they are not connecting with their spouse. They are not connecting with their, they are not able to make such good friends.
Yeah.
Or they are saying that, we're not able to talk in front of people, or we're not able to convey our point. And they are coming to me at an age where, you would have ideally thought that they would be so successful by now. And they tell me that. They said, we thought by 28 we would have reached here, by 32 we would have reached here. They have this thing in their mind, and then they realize that at this age they are struggling like no end. And then they come to me, and when I take them through so I have the entire process which I map them through. When we take them through it, then and guess what? So this I started just a 3-month, 6-month program.
Okay.
But then literally people I have spoken to, like say 5 years back, I've helped. They keep coming. Any success that happens in their life, this is what you spoke of.
Correct. They can relate it to their daily life.
They can relate to the daily life. They say, okay, this is what happened, this is what you said, and every success is like my success, because now they are my people, so they come back. But then they tell us, why didn't someone take us through in early childhood, or why wasn't this spoken about earlier? And I somewhere, I feel your program actually fits into the entire equation.
Because see, communication is underrated.
Yeah.
It is underrated. We think that just because we can speak English or Hindi or Marathi, we are communicating.
That is what people think is communication. English
talking is not communicating. Communicating
Exactly.
is exactly what you wanted to say. Has the other person understood it that way? Because that is when there is problem in relationships.
Yeah.
That is where there is problem in parenting. Now every parent wants the best for the child. Is there any parent who wouldn't want the best for the child? But the way
especially Asian parents.
Yeah.
I think India, I guess India and China are those parents which are like the world over known as those Asian parents who engineer chahiye, doctor chahiye, you just want that.
Yeah, correct.
But I think now the time has come where we say we want a child who understands failure.
It's a well balanced child.
Well balanced, even emotionally. And okay, so for me, well balanced does not just mean emotion and IQ. It also means physical quotient. It also means spiritual quotient.
Yes.
I know that we were just talking about Arya Vidya Mandir.
Yes.
Yeah, so your
my nephew is in
Arya Vidya
I'm
Mandir.
extremely happy with the school, how much they do Havan and all in school.
Havan and
bhajans in school.
Basically, I have an Arya Samaj very close by to my house.
Okay.
And they teach yoga, so I go there. I have attended their Upanishads classes.
Wonderful.
I have attended their Gita classes. So my Nana's friend, at one time, Kohli uncle we used to call him, he was the chairman of Arya Samaj. So we have that connection there, although I'm a Sikh, but we attended that.
Yeah.
And his granddaughter now, Nidhi, she is actually handling the Upanishad classes, and so she has taken it ahead, like her Nana's legacy and all that. So I know all this is happening around me. You won't imagine like these values which come in, like our children I'm seeing these values around me. Like her two daughters know the Upanishads. They talk about the Vedas. We're just putting our children to these fancy schools. We're taking teach them about some brain mathematics and whatever. But we need to also
look at our Vedic math.
Vedic math is amazing.
It's the best in the world.
Yeah, abacus and all that we've taught. This was all India.
Yeah, all India.
No, but even along with that, there has to be what is your Sanskriti, what is your culture. Let's not ignore that as well. I think I am very proud of the fact that I'm Indian.
Oh my God, I would do anything for my country.
Yeah,
because we have to have that passion and that pride. In us.
Exactly, because I started reading the the Upanishads, which is so Nidhi was after me to learn the Upanishads, but then the timing wasn't matching. So then finally she said, go ahead and read this book. So I am reading by Swami Paramananda, the English translation of the Upanishads, and by the way, it just blew my mind. I said, wow, so we have so much to get. Yeah. So every child also needs to get all that, those storytelling, those. I think we need to kind of start evolving our parents.
What parents provide to the child becomes important for the child.
Yes.
For example, if you're just giving material things to the child, those become important for the child. If fairy tales, okay, now if you notice most of the fairy tales, that's what naturally a parent, if at all the parent wants books in the home, the first thing they resort to is the fairy tales.
Correct.
Now have you noticed that all the fairy tales revolve around physical beauty?
Yes, they do.
Ugly Duckling, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella.
I know,
what are you sowing in the mind of the child? What is the seed that you're sowing?
Correct.
So we just blindly do things, but actually there are such interesting alternatives which are available. If you could just become aware of what is the priority for you as a parent. What you want to see your child doing when he's 10 and 15 is what you should start doing now. If you want a child to be a reader, but you are not providing books for the child. So then you want something, but you don't have, it's not accessible to the child.
And again, you're outsourcing it.
It's not part of his childhood.
You're outsourcing it. Put him for this class, put him for that class, send him for chess, send him for football, and then I am free.
Yeah.
That is something which I guess
this is what is happening today.
It is happening. And the more the classes, the more you burden the child, because you're thinking that the child is anyway not going to go out to play. The child will go on his mobile or TV. So usse acha put him for a class. And this is happening, by the way.
All the time.
Everywhere I see, and the mothers are so worried about marks. Project ho gaya, and why are the schools making such elaborate projects? Make them do the project in class. You're
let them play in the mud.
Let them take, they're not taking the burden. Okay, and those mothers are struggling with the project. I have a shop which is close by to my house next to a school. Okay, not naming the school. That shop is a stationery shop. they do projects for a fees. They're like, which standard project you all want? You give us the topic,
You're
we will
making
make
the
the
child
project.
a parasite.
Completely. Because itna, and see, वैसे भी the child is not doing anything. It is the mother who is making the project. So mother says, I don't have time. Finally get the thing over here.
See, that's the beauty of our program.
Huh.
The entire objective is to make a child an independent learner.
Correct.
That is the whole objective, and that too, the process has to be fun.
Hmm.
Because children learn the best when they're having fun.
Correct.
And play is our brain's favorite way of learning.
Correct.
Right?
Exactly
Yeah.
my point.
So the thing is, why not? I mean, the easiest thing parents can do is provide the right tools to the children. They are natural learners. They will absorb whatever you give them.
Lovely.
You teach them telling lies, no papa, they are going to
learn about
learn
lies.
that. You play them math songs, peppy songs, and dance with them on math songs, they are going to pick up that. So the onus is always on the parent.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I guess today we've learned a lot about early learning, positive parenting, and also having this choice, choosing conscious leadership.
Yes.
For yourself, for your child, and please start inculcating the values at a very young age, and don't wait for that child to finally go to therapy.
Values to chodo, they are seeing murders, they are seeing so much violence on the screen with sitting with the family.
Yeah.
And they are watching. So it's the new normal.
And everything, if you see the kind of content which we are viewing,
Cartoons see the content. Forget even about the other movies
Right.
and all, we are not even talking about, which also they should not see. But even cartoons show so much of violence.
yeah,
So you're beating somebody and being happy about it. So they become very, how do you say, they don't have that empathy.
desensitized to crime.
Absolutely.
And
It
then
is
you will
normal.
say they are hitting people. They say, why are you doing that?
Exactly. It's
Oh,
the new
God.
normal. So I think we as parents need to be very consciously deciding how we decide the food for the child. You want the child to have the fruits and have the milk also and have the dal also. I mean, we are very conscious about what we feed the child for their physical development. I think we should be doubly conscious of what we are feeding their brains.
Correct.
If right food is fed, the child will be mentally healthy and he will not have future problems.
So, give me your, it is, I think, earlylearning.co.
No, it is learningtime.co.
Yeah.
And we have got something, our program is known as A+, okay, which is developing awareness, ability and attitude in children.
Nice.
Yeah. I think parents should really, at least have a look and see what are the options you have for your children.
Yeah, we'll mention all of them in the description. You can give me like a small description of whatever you can,
Yeah.
and we'll add that there
Sure.
with the link to the program,
Yeah.
and maybe also your contact number if you can share it with us.
I will.
Yeah, I think that will be really amazing, and parents can definitely get in touch with you and start taking back the reins of their parenthood in their own hands.
Yeah, and enjoy the process of parenting.
Huh.
Parenting is not so tough. Actually, these years don't come back again.
Yeah.
The children's years. So make the best use of these years, the early years of the children. Believe me, you will have very fond memories, and so will your children.
And by the way, guys, so if the parent wants to develop their own skills, you all can come to me.
Yes.
You all can have a discovery call with me. I will put the link there as well. So yeah, so this is something. So you do it for the child, and I do it for the adult.
Great partnership.
Great partnership. Wherever possible. No, and end result is to keep learning, to keep growing.
Learning never stops here.
Yeah, and you know what? When you start on this path, something just blooms inside you. You're like growing, you're
Become a
growing.
different person.
Yeah, and you're so happy all the time because
Yeah.
now nothing is holding you back because ye karna, I can do this. This
Yes.
says I can do this.
Correct.
You're an achiever. You're not that whining person sitting in the corner and crying. Oh, you know what? I didn't get the increment. I didn't get the bonus.
Get stuck with very petty things. Isn't it?
Very petty things. And I think when you move beyond,
Yeah.
So
Oh,
even as a
life is
child-
beautiful.
Oh,
It's
wow.
a one-time offer, so we should make the most of every moment, isn't it?
Exactly. So that's lovely conversation with you, Ketaki. Thank
same
you
here. I've
so
really
much.
enjoyed this. It's something which is very close to my heart. So
Definitely, and
thank
I
you for
think
giving me this platform.
We'll keep calling you. Don't worry.
Oh yeah,
I
it will be
definitely
my pleasure.
would love to have you.
My pleasure. My
Thank
pleasure.
you so
Thank you
much.
so